So I'm Dominic O'Sullivan. I gave a quick recap yesterday on kind of where I came from, if you like. So former military physical training instructor and rehab instructor. So I left the military end of 98, 99 into the commercial sector. And yeah, some things that I saw then are still happening now. And that was kind of one of my starting messages yesterday. So we're going to kind of move. We covered these things yesterday. Demographic analysis, I'm going to do a quick recap on that. But today we're really going to talk about this persona-based service and programming. There isn't a flashy kind of creative title that is buzzing around the industry for this, because not everybody is looking at it through this lens. So forgive me for the clumsy title. And then we'll look at how we target and provide solutions to your members based on their persona. So that's the so we're on part two. As I said, 25 years post-military, lots of organization, proven model of working. I have a kind of methodology, how I go about that. You can imagine being in the military, you kind of have like processes and systems that kind of live and die by it. But the first thing we talked about yesterday is how do you understand your customers? And I use the term research. It's not sending it off to a university to do. This is stuff you can do. Free, by the way. Simple tools. Does anyone here use ChatGPT for other than writing a nice email or creating an image? You use it for anything else? What else have you used it for? Just random questions. Yeah. What's the best nightclub in Solihull? Things like that as you arrive, obvious things. Anyone used it for anything other than, I suppose, whatever half the population's using it for? Finn, you touched on it? Copy. Yeah, just for like writing something, getting a bit of copy. Finn, anything on you? Okay, all right.
That's actually pretty useful for. But then we were trying to use it to see some of the area demographic stuff.
Okay.
Average income.
Cool,
size,
good.
That sort of stuff.
Steve, anything on you?
Nothing.
No, not touched it. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. AI? What's AI? Yeah. Google. No, okay, no problem. So there's things like ChatGPT, things like Gemini. If you're a Google user, you'll get Gemini, and it's Gemini research button, which can go into real detail. If I was in university now, it would be a real struggle not to want to use it, to be fair, because it can give you all the references for the information it's given you as well. So it's pretty powerful. And simple thing, they're called prompt engineering. So what you type in will determine what you get back. But the more you use it, particularly if you've got a kind of premium account or anything like that, it learns from you. It learns your language, your preferences, the kind of thing. So it builds up a much more accurate response for you. So really worth looking at it. But you can type in effectively, this is a postcode in a 25-kilometer radius, give me a demographic analysis of this area. And you will get the competition, you'll understand household income, you'll understand what the postcode numbers are, around that area, and it will just give you a picture of what's actually out there. So if you were starting a new facility, for instance, you might go, bang, that's where we are. How much competition's in that area? How many members are in that area, and how many people live in that area? We know there's just under 17% penetration of health club membership in the UK. So if you took the target area and went, right, what does 17% equate to? It'd be X number of members divided by the amount of competition you've got. So you can then say, okay, is there enough share for us to tap into? Are we fishing in a pond that's got enough people? If you decide to stick yourself out in a beautiful converted barn 40 miles from anything, you've not got a lot of people living around you. They're all going to have to travel, which presents a barrier. So simple things like that, local demand. But then importantly, we talked about overlaying your data. So even if you didn't do the demographic bit and you just do your internal analysis, you're going to start doing a member list from whatever management system you've got, which will have age, gender, postcode. A typical bit of information we'd want to see on something like that is a start date. When did they join us? And if they've left, when did they cancel? So now we've got a survival rate. The last 100 people that left stayed with us an average of 11 months. But another interesting kind of warning sign that you can pick up is when did they last visit us? So I know they cancelled on the 1st of June, but when was their last visit? And what that gives you is almost an early warning flag to say typically the people who leave, last visit to the facility will be 8 weeks before that. So they stop coming, they get out of the habit, and then they think, oh, I better cancel that. So there's a bit of a gap from last visit to actually cancellation. Some people, of course, will go right up to the last minute and they're just changing clubs. They haven't broken their habit, they're just switching clubs. But it will give you an understanding of what your members are doing once they're a member. So start date, end date, visit frequency, really helpful. And then, if you looked at, let's look at 2024 compared to 2020 or 2023. So do a comparison, because it might just be something's happened recently that's changed, that's shifted in terms of your membership behavior. Does that make sense? So that's a quick recap on yesterday. We talked about that in a little bit more detail. Go for it.
You just said survival rate. I just
Yeah.
want to analyse what that actually really means.
Perfect. Really good point, because some of the language that's used in the industry, and this goes back 27 years from when I first came into it, was attrition. The number of people that leave in a month compared to the number of people you've got as members, and it's a percentage. And people will talk about 3% attrition. If you leave this month, you might have been with us for 3 years, but you might have only been with us for 3 months. So there's a massive difference in kind of what that member has done for you. Retention, typically what we're talking about is survival rate. So think of it like a birth and death rate. You're born on a certain day as a member. How long do you live? And that's effectively what we're measuring. How many months, how many payments have they made to you while they've been a member? So typically, survival rate might be 11 months. Now, the way we talked yesterday about how can we influence that, put in a lock-in to the contract. If you put in a 6-month lock-in, no one's leaving for 6 months, unless they default, of course, on their direct debit, which we know as operators that will happen. But typically, if you want to extend the survival rate, you've got to keep them coming in, or you've got to put in a lock-in period, one or the other. They'll have the same effect. So if you put a 12-month contract in place and you can't get out of it, your minimum survival rate is going to be 12 months. And then it's every month after that is usually a rolling contract, so it's then we're in the kind of month-to-month game. Does that kind of make sense? Clarify that? Okay, everyone happy with that, by the way? Sorry, I didn't ask you guys when you came in. Owners, operators, managers, instructors, what's the role?
Bit of both.
Okay. Okay, lovely, great. So we also talked about generational marketing. Anyone seen this before, apart from the ones that were in yesterday? Familiar with this at all? Okay, so if we go for the left, silent generation, think your grandparents. Okay, 1940-ish birth dates, stoic, silent, don't, stiff upper lip, all that kind of stuff. But how do they communicate? What's their preferred method of communication? It's face-to-face generally. Phone call, yes. Landline, by the way. Landline and phone call and face-to-face. But they consume their news and their information probably once a day. That'll be the newspaper in the morning. They'll walk to the shop, they'll get their newspaper, or it'll be the 9 o'clock news. That's their typical way to communicate with them. Boomers, slightly younger, up to kind of 64. They will use some technology, may have a mobile phone. Actually, some of this group are booking their breaks to the sun for their winter holidays on an EasyJet app, by the way. So they're not complete kind of technophobes. But then you get towards Gen X, first generation really to straddle technology and not. So I'm technically in this bracket. Okay, so I use mobile phones, might have a laptop, happy with an app, things like that. But they're a kind of mix. So you can get some people who are still towards that way, and you've got some, which I consider myself as pretty digitally savvy, and WhatsApp and Instagram and things like that. You get more towards this way. They're the first ones that grew up with technology, so they're used to it. It's familiar. They probably had them in school. Just to date me a little bit, when I left school, the school got its first computer. Last year, they had the first computer, a class of us with one computer, and the teacher did the work and we had to watch. It was like, oh, we got a computer. Of course, now, every child under the age of about 7 has access to a laptop when they go to junior school. So you can imagine that it's a very different kind of person that's being built. Gen Z, if it's not on TikTok or it's not on Insta, it never happened, right? How many of you got in your gym they're doing more of that than they are training? Yeah, so we got that. But that's about communication style. Okay, that's how to reach them. Now, of course, some people will be able, you can reach some people on Instagram who are actually this old. I'm kind of one of them. But we need to bear this in mind when we want to get our message out or we want to send out something from our club. If we only use one method, we're probably not going to hit the mark with all those groups. So typically, we need to understand the difference of how to communicate with them, not just what's easy for us. So in the past, we used to send out flyers. Well, Gen Z is not reading a flyer. Okay, they're not going to respond to that, but then you could send it all out on Instagram, and then you're going to miss people at that end of the scale. So unless we really polarize our audience and say we only want Gen Z, then we've got to understand the different methods. So again, as I said, bit of speed dating from yesterday. Most importantly, you're independent. My first job out of the military was with an independent operator. And it gave me the flexibility to, if we had a conversation or we decided something on Friday, I could make it happen Monday. I didn't have to go through a board. I didn't have to go through the chain of clubs to get approval for it to be rolled out. So we have that agility. We have that flexibility, which I think is the kind of superpower, because we can react a lot quicker as well. And of course, if we do something and it doesn't work, we can fail quick and learn. And then we can go again, rather than being, this is the SOP, this is what the group is doing, and actually it's not working, but we've got to keep with it. So I think, don't be afraid to try something, and give it time and analyze it. If it's not working, change it. I think you've got that flexibility. So we want to make sure that whatever we do is right for your facility. It isn't always a cookie cutter that you can go, that works there, so it's definitely going to work there. We've got to have the kind of local nuances with it. So how do your members identify themselves? We talked yesterday, forget what's on your birth certificate. How do you see yourself training? What's your preference for exercise? Do you prefer classes? Do you prefer to work on your own? Are you a performance type athlete? So Steve, yesterday, I'm going to single you out yesterday because you are still performance, you are still pushing, yeah? But your birth certificate says you should be more sedate and more kind of relaxed. There you go, right? And bear in mind, one on the moral high ground this morning who has actually trained. Okay, so that tells you something. But how you identify, and then more importantly, how do your trainers see their members? Do they see, oh, he's grey, he's old, this is how he's going to train? Or do they actually try and understand exactly what it is that kind of pushes their button? So we looked at this yesterday. Your trainers may look, and we do that, don't we? We quickly look at someone and make a decision in our head, like this person wants kind of something a little bit more moderate, low impact, etc. But as Finn wisely pointed out yesterday, he's wearing a smartwatch. Because this guy's got his data, he wants to know his moves, he's considering his kind of activity levels. So he's not necessarily pen and paper, typical boomer at that end of the scale. Actually, he's touched into technology. And then we've got student kind of age, okay, maybe it's a little bit more about how we look, got the gun show out on a Friday, all those kind of things. So it's interesting, hey again, now you're not making a habit of coming in partway through like you did yesterday, are you? Good to see you again. So when we look at that group, it's easy to make a distinction in our minds about how we should treat them, and your trainers could do the same. But I would say ignore the birth certificate, and then what have we actually got? So I've kind of made them labels today for our purposes, but student Sam, retired Bob, professional Priya, family Fatima, performance Pav. Who in this room identifies with Priya? Who feels they're in the Priya mold? Yeah? Okay. Priya, Peter, doesn't matter, right? Gender neutral. Okay, and that's kind of busy life, exercise got to be fitted in around, pressure of work, etc. Yeah, got that. Who's performance? Yeah, Sue, I know your background, so definitely I see you there. Who else sees themselves in that performance, yeah? Now, it doesn't mean that you're a paid athlete, an elite athlete, but it's really important to you and you like pushing your limits and you like achieving goal-based kind of activities. What about retired Bob? Who identifies with that? Who's old enough to identify with retired Bob? Okay, who's actually feel like retired Bob? Nope, I don't feel like retired Bob. If I go into my local leisure centre, I can access an over 55s gentle chair exercise program. As if. It's not me. Now the interesting thing is we're trying to work it out, right? Trainers are trying to work this out. You as operators going, if I'm looking at this, who's who? I'm going to ask one simple question here. Why don't you let the member tell you? If you had that up at the entrance to your gym saying, we cater for all types of training, goals, attitudes, whatever, who are you? Who do you relate to? Wouldn't that be a lot easier for your trainers to then know, right, if that's how you want to train, I'm still going to look at contraindications. I'm still going to look at what's appropriate. I've got an impingement issue in my shoulder from years of rugby. I've just had a meniscus tear repaired in my knee. So I'd like to think I'm this, but I can't do all the things that probably someone like Finn could do when it comes to lifting. But I don't want to work out that when I finish, I haven't sweat. I still want to work out and feel at the end of it, I need a shower. But I know some people don't like that. They don't like leaving the gym like that, particularly if they're going back to work. What would be your thoughts about putting that up and asking your members who they are? Or is there a way in your sales process where they could self-identify with how they want to train, how they want to be seen in your club? Any thoughts? Any violent objections? No? I always take silence as acceptance, by the way, guys. So if you don't throw anything in, I'll kind of assume that it's kind of resonating a little bit. But there's an opportunity. It's a little bit like you go into I know you're all fitness professionals, so you won't go into a fast food takeaway very often. And you'll look up at the board and there's a menu. And it's easy, isn't it? Because they show you a picture and they show you what's in it and they give you a price and you go, I want one of them. You could have a fitness menu. We talked about this yesterday. So if you think from a trainer's, I know you guys said you're trainers, okay? Are you guys actually on the tools as well, delivering PT and programs? So if I said to you, what are the individual things that you could deliver with a customer? I'm going to talk about things like you could do a fitness test. You could do a body fat analysis or an analysis. What are the individual things you could do as almost like a bite-sized piece with your people? Just fire some out, throw them out. Okay, yeah, so if they're into their walking or wherever, it could be, let's go out and do a route from the gym door, back out and around, could do that. Yeah, what else could we do?
I don't ask them. Because everybody in our gym, they get induction from them anyway. We turn towards them. Just ask them.
Let me throw things out, see if it resonates. How to do the perfect squat. So I've never used TRX. How do I use TRX? I've seen these people doing kettlebells, but not sure. How to do a double-handed kettlebell swing, start point. So if you think about all those individual things and you put that up as a menu, and I came in, I've been to gyms before, I've done some stuff, but actually I've never used that. Can you show me how to use that? And they choose. Are they going to turn up for that appointment? More likely because it's something they want, rather than you saying, this is what we do. We do this, then we do this, then we do this. Well, actually, I don't really want that. So when we talk about people struggling to turn up for appointments or percentage of return rates on appointments, why not give them some choices they like the look of? Does that make sense?
We call it a sandwich.
Okay.
You decide what the client wants,
Yeah.
what the client actually needs,
Yeah.
and you base their session around a little bit what they want, giving them what they need, and let them finish on what they want, so they leave thinking, that's just what I
Love
want.
that.
In actual fact, you're fixing whatever's broken with them.
Love that, love that. And also, it's tapping into the thing that's kind of getting them a little bit excited. We had a term for this before as well called fitness tapas. So actually, you're going to try a little bit of something. So you might learn how to do the perfect squat or inverted row on a TRX. And actually, if you like that, you'll want to come back for more of it. You might now go into a body pump class, for instance, or you might want to do a full TRX workout. But you're giving them that little something that they're actually interested in. Love that, fitness sandwich. Yeah, I love that. That's cool. Okay, so within our facility, we've got a mix of this. Because we might have 20% of this. We might have 60% of this. So if we wanted to have the biggest impact, we need to identify what have we got the most of? How would our members identify? And let's do something about that group first. So we can't necessarily do everything at once. You tighten resources. You're probably on the tools yourself and busy. We're all busy. So it's prioritizing which group are we going to focus on first. For your individual facilities, who thinks they've got a higher percentage concentration of this? I think that's the highest number. What else have we got? Who are the other prominent personas within your facility, do you think? And I know you've got quite an eclectic mix, you were saying to me yesterday. Yeah? Would you pick out one as probably more of those? As I think you termed yesterday your core demographic.
Our core demographic are pushing now kind of probably the middle section.
Okay, so Priya and Fatima?
Yeah, and quite a lot of Bob.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And
Actually got one called Bob.
Yeah,
okay, there you go. Every time you'll see him now, you'll be your retiree Bob. This end and this end, this isn't a slight in any way. I often think that these groups can self-manage a lot easier on the basis that they've got a plan or they're following something and they've motivated themselves. You could almost knock them on the back of the head with a bit of 4B2 when they come in, and they'll still come back for more tomorrow. Whereas these don't necessarily have the depth of knowledge or the kind of the goal-based training. So I'm not saying don't focus on those. I'm just saying it's probably more likely you'll have a bigger impact on your survival rates by focusing on those groups. Yeah? Does that make sense? Any feel free, throw in questions, thoughts? No? Happy?
As long as there's a squat rack free, that performance paths up.
Exactly. So, and what?
It's like about 5 of them hanging around one cable machine.
Yeah. Yeah. So the pains and the issues and the barriers for these people are access to the lifting platforms, the kind of kit and whatever. Whereas these people are probably a little bit, well, I'm kind of quite happy doing that, or a class, etc. Okay, cool. So going back to that, we now know who they are, but how do we tell them? How do we tell them what we can do? So if we were going to publish your sandwich menu or your fitness menu, how do you communicate that to those different generations? Because you could put your stuff on TikTok to say, learn to do the perfect squat, and a demo of Finn doing a perfect squat and someone doing that, but that's only going to reach a certain demographic. But for Pav and Sam, the students, that's perfect, because that's the message and it's going to the right people. How do you reach retired Bob? So chances are you might be in this sort of bracket, which now comes into, yes, it might be your Facebook page rather than your Instagram page. It could be that it's a direct email that goes out.
A printed program on the desk.
Yeah.
On this group, this is my father-in-law, okay, John Adams, legend of Darlington, 90 in April. It takes him half an hour to get into the gym once he's come through the main door, because he talks to everybody on reception non-stop, and they love him. And he, oh, how are you? What are you doing today, John? Oh, I'm going to... First thing is the stairs to the gym is part of his workout, because he lives in a bungalow. But if you want to tell him something about something that you might think is relevant, a falls prevention group or functional strength or whatever, you need to talk to him. You find that opportunity to talk. But not all of them. Some people will have the headphones on, won't want to talk. All right? So we know that. So how do you now kind of deliver the right service and the right experience for those personas? So remember, they've come into you from a different angle. Some will have referral from a friend, face-to-face. They'll be chatting about you. Some will have seen your Instagram. Some might have seen your website. Some might have done a Google search, gyms in my area, I've just moved in. So first of all, I'm going to give you an experience of when I moved into where I live now. A couple of years ago when we moved there, did a quick search, what's in the area? Google search, came up with a list of gyms, as they normally do, the sponsored ones at the top, and then you go down. And I can go distance from where I am on my Google search, and it tells me. So I did a bit of research. I got a list back, and then I thought, okay, let me have a quick look at what they've got. And then when I clicked on some of them, they don't have a website. So how do I know? I click on it, website not found, 404, whatever that is, those alerts you get back. And I couldn't find anything about them. The Facebook page on one of them didn't have any pictures. It had a picture of the front door. I'm like, well, great, but what's inside? So my experience as a customer of your facility, I haven't even joined yet, and it's already on the decline. So if you think of the list I've got, who are the ones that I'm going to find more information about first? The ones who've got something to look at, right? Their website's full, it's informative. I don't want to spend a lot of time on a website, but I want an image. I want something that captures what your club is about. So I had a look. So what I thought then is, okay, I'll hit that contact form that they've got and I'll send them an email. Okay, it annoyed me at the time, but I went through the process, right, contact us, sent the email. So I sent the email and they kind of came back to me and they gave me some information with a link, and I kind of looked at what they'd sent me. And I saw a picture of the gym, and it told me that they had 140 stations, and it told me they did 40 classes a week, but it didn't tell me what they were going to do for me. It just told me what they had. It didn't say, you can have a personal training session when you arrive, and Finn's an Olympic bodybuilder, and he'll show you how to do the perfect squat. It didn't give me anything as a flavor of what they were about. It just told me what they had. So I'm still, okay, I've got it, I can see what they want, but I'm still considering. I've not decided to join any of these, so I tried to search a little bit more. I'm looking on my phone for information from what they've sent me, but all this is just a negative. I haven't got what I wanted quickly, and I'm still searching. So I'm still searching around. I'm still looking at some of the other facilities. Some I discounted straight away. I wanted one with a pool. Okay, those without a pool just went off the list. Okay, it wasn't enough for me. So I'm still considering. So I then thought, I'll go and have a look. So I get in touch with them. I say, I want to come down and have a look. Yeah, come down. There'll be someone there to show you around. Of course, I turn up at the facility. There's no one available. Because they haven't booked an appointment for me. They've just said, come down. Well, we know that there are times when you're just busy. And there isn't anyone available because they're all busy. So as an experience from a customer point of view, you're not doing so good for me right now, and I've made the effort to go. Now, in my mind, I wanted somewhere I could get to really quickly. I wasn't going to have to drive through town at rush hour and stuff like that. So there was a couple that I wanted them to be the right answer because they were located in exactly the right spot. Guess what? One of them was, the experience put me off at that point, so I didn't even look at them again. So we've got to that point. I've now turned up. They said, yeah, we'll give you a call. Have a think about it, see what you feel, give us a call back. They didn't, by the way. They didn't call me back. They didn't send me anything. So at this point now, I'm like, right, great, I've come to see you. You're obviously not bothered. I've now gone, right, I'm going to make a call. So I'll phone the facility and just say, right, I'm thinking of joining. I've narrowed it down. Even though my experience has been poor, my choices were based on location. Did it have a pool? Price point was a factor, but it wasn't the main thing. So I get to the point, I go, right, I am going to join this one. I'll give it a go. But they hadn't really done anything to get me. Now, of course, some people won't get that back to that point. They won't make the effort to get there. And if you think there was probably 6 possibles on my list, and I got down to 2, and these were the 2. I was at this point with just the last 2. So I had to make a decision. It wasn't perfect. Now I've joined. The process of actually paying, I couldn't do it online. I had to go in person to do that. So again, it's another kind of time. But we got there. And then I'm a member. Now what happens? So I've gone through this. You're lucky that I've joined. Now what's the promise? And we talked yesterday about what's our promise, what's our service offering, and do we actually deliver that? So you mentioned it's a standard term. There's an induction. There's a follow-up appointment. I didn't want any of that. I didn't need that at the time. But what I didn't get was all the rules and all the stipulations for using their pool. So I swim. Who knows this kind of swimmer's mentality? And I use hand paddles in some of my training. I'd been there for probably 2 months, put hand paddles on in the middle of a session. Lifeguards, can't use those. What do you mean you can't use those? Can't use them in our pool. It's dangerous. I was the only one in there. Right, okay, took them off. Had a little bit of a grumble, as is natural. About 2 weeks later, I'd had enough. I left. Because they didn't tell me the right things. I kind of gave it a chance, but do you know what? It was a letdown. I ended up going to the second one on my choice, and I've been there now for about 18 months. And I even upgraded my membership there. But, that is perilous.
Why was the second one, first of all, out of interest?
To be honest, it's probably an extra mile that way, but it's not so much the distances. I have to go through a kind of town centre, it's there, whereas the other one is literally no traffic, one roundabout, and I'm there. So that was it's a little bit more modern, and the times I can swim there are more than the times I can swim in the other ones, but I've made it work. So you could have lost them at any stage along this, and actually they got to this point and still lost me. So if you were to now talk of whose responsibility is this bit here, because that's not a gym instructor. Gym instructor's not even seen you at this point. Okay, so this is owner, this is marketing, yeah? This role here is sales. Now, you might not have a sales department. It could be a duty officer. It could be a gym instructor that does the tour and all that kind of stuff. But there's a sales function going on here. Who takes this call, by the way? Who takes a call in your facilities? To go straight through to the gym, to go to the sales department? Who is it? The all-powerful receptionist. The ones that used to work in a doctor's reception, so they're like, you're not coming in. Okay, so if you think of, we've now, just you can imagine the life I have with these kind of experiences. So we've got marketing, we've got sales, we've got reception, so operations, and then we're kind of back to maybe the sales or the reception people. But all these things, it's up, down, they're all involved. So if you were to look at the experience and what we've gone through there, and you say, right, who's doing well? Well, there's failures in all levels here. Nobody's got this nailed. There's some good things, but there's also some poor things. So if we then analyze that experience, what's the yellow, what's the blue, what are we already doing that's really well? Okay, what are we doing that's good? So not everything's bad, but we've got to say, what's our priority here? So if we went back to say, what's the bit that we need to solve first? Because I might have seen you through Instagram, and actually your Instagram profile looks brilliant. There's some really good engaging content on there. But if I didn't come through Instagram and I went through your website, the website's like something from the 60s, and it's just text. So that's not giving the best impression. There's no photos, etc. So again, prioritizing what we're going to deal with, but what we've got to do is break these silos. So we've got marketing thinking they're doing a great job on their output and what they're doing. Fitness instructors saying when they come in the gym, it's brilliant. And we've got receptionists who they're in charge. So we used the term yesterday, echo chambers and silos. We kind of need to get everybody looking at this and understanding what the experience, what the persona of that user. Because if Bob comes through the door, he wants someone to talk to them. He wants you to tell them about the membership. But if Sam comes through the door, just show me Instagram reel, show me joining online. I want to be able to join through my phone. I don't want to have to come and sign papers. It's easier to book a flight on EasyJet and take your bags than it is to join a gym. Let's think about it. If our perfect experience is booking an EasyJet flight or Ryanair budget on an app, why is it so? Why have we got to present like so much information? We've got to do proof of residency. We've got to do all that. But I can fly to another country, and I can do it all online. So that whole customer experience, to me, we've got to get some alignment. Do you think this company's got it sorted? Do you think the one that I joined has actually got it nailed? They're lucky that I'm as resilient as I am, to be fair, or I'd never have joined. So you've got to get these people together. You can't do this as an owner saying, this is what we do. You have to get their buy-in. You have to get their involvement in designing and understanding that member journey. And there isn't one member journey. So when clubs say to me, we've got a member journey, you've got a member journey, and you're hoping that all those personas will fit into it. When actually, there's a journey for Bob, which involves how he inquires and how he gets information. And there's a journey for Pav. And they're similar, but they're not identical. Because what we're doing is going, this is all we can do, rather than we can do what you need. And that fitness menu gives you that option to say, what is it you'd like to do? Does that make sense? That's a lot there, isn't there? There's a lot there. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me the things that are sticking in your mind from that.
Jim, you joined initially, it was hard work.
Yeah.
Just to join. It was hard work.
Absolutely.
So like another gym, say they rank well on Google, say that you get through and you can see the gym on the website and it just says, join our gym.
Yeah, there's a join now button, in you go, bang, done.
Yeah.
I booked
It's done, isn't it?
I booked 4 flights over New Year to travel around Europe in less time than it took me to join that facility. Yeah. And hotels to go with it. So let's take an example. And again, we're firing through this. So this is Bob's profile. And we get to this point by doing little workshops with teams where we have a cross-department team. So we'll have someone from sales, we'll have someone marketing, someone fitness. And one club that I did this with recently, we had the cleaners in as well. And the reason being, the cleaners talk to more people than the gym staff do, because they catch them in the corridor. They have those conversations. Yeah? They are the spokesperson for your club. So if they don't understand what you can deliver and what you're doing, if you go into a real 5-star luxury hotel, I've been to one, someone else paid, by the way, but when you go into those, everybody in that facility they'll greet you, they'll be able to answer questions. If you go into Sainsbury's, where's the coffee aisle? Anyone there will be able to say, it's here, and we'll take you there. So there's alignment through the team. So we need input from the whole team. This isn't a directive from the top. This is built by the team. So let's look at Bob. You've got an understanding, demographic-wise, you know what he looks like. And this is created by all that research information. We've got tools that we can plug all that in and say, describe the personas that exist within your facility. And it's based on your social media and website activity. So whatever you're pushing out and saying you do and who you have, it will show us what personas you're currently appealing to. Doesn't mean that you got all the personas covered because you might not be tapping into the ones that are there. But if we look at this, what are their pains? Okay, he's worried about overtraining or training too hard at his age, get that. But he's health conscious, he's community orientated, he likes speaking to people. Ultimately, what's he trying to achieve? Yeah, wants to feel mobile, doesn't want to feel old, effectively, physically, but he likes that social thing. These are the people who will be in your cafe after having a coffee. They will be hanging around chatting to each other if you've got that kind of facility. What's his frustrations? Doesn't really do the apps, doesn't really have he's still got a Nokia 6310 because he charged it in 1980 and still doesn't need to recharge it. But he gets frustrated with busyness, comes in at the off-peak times. Yeah, so Bob likes these are the things that are kind of good and bad for him. So if we were now going to program for him, if your trainer now understood Bob and he said, these are my things. If I'm doing a needs analysis with Bob, I'm trying to uncover not just what exercises he likes, because he only knows what he knows. He doesn't know what TRX is or kettlebells or anything. What he's telling you is, do you know, I'm not as mobile as I used to be. I look after my wife. She's not mobile. I need to be able to lift her out of the chair. You know, I walk. So we're now tapping into the things that are really important. What do we need to find? Okay, so we need to find exercises that are age appropriate, but also tap into the things that he wants to achieve, which are here. So, you know, what's his behaviors? He likes the classes. There's a group of people he meets 3 times a week in a particular class. He likes doing yoga, or he likes going into body pump. John Adams, Mayor of Darlington, body pump. He's 89, loves it. Can't get enough of it. He used to play football. He was competitive. He likes that kind of team thing. So why can't he go into body pump? Why not? He's never had a fall. He has a knee replacements, but he hasn't had a fall. So, and he also, this bit, really, really important. This is him. Why doesn't he have the coffee in your facility? If you haven't created a little area to finish off and sit down and cool down and have a coffee with friends, we're missing, because he will go somewhere for that. And if it's the next door coffee shop or Costa, you're missing out. So understanding those personas and then delivering something for them. Some of you people are delivering programming. Throw some things at me that you think you'd be doing for Bob from your facility and what you've got available and the type of things. How would you deal with Bob? Steve, kicks off. Go on. You're not Bob, as we know. You're on the performance path. But if Bob came in, what would you do in your club for him? What have you got that fits Bob?
Do a little mobility assessment.
Yeah?
And then sort of say, you know, we got type pecs, so I might sort of do a stretching here with the stretch the TRX, and we might strengthen sort of muscles of the back.
So we're going to look at him, his capabilities, and something specifically dialed into what he's presenting with. Finn, I don't know how many of Bob's you have in your type of facility. It's kind of, I know what you described to me yesterday. Yeah? What fits for him from what you've got?
Do you know what one of them is? They keep reading newspapers, and newspapers keep telling them that they are standardised measures of performance at a later age, one of which is press-ups, which I think is mental for people over 70, that magazines are telling them they should be able to do 10 press-ups. So with my client Alan, retiree Alan, he really wants to be able to do press-ups.
Okay.
So
it's just... Yeah.
But to get to that, it was a chest press machine, then it was a dumbbell press, then it was some core work, and then eventually...
Progressions, regressions.
Through the parallel against the floor, so he's quite happy on that.
I love the fact that you've got Alan. You know you've got an Alan, retiree Alan, because now you see the persona, you go, I've got someone like that. I speak to him every day. And I love the fact that you go, okay, you're hearing this, so we're still going to kind of feed that because that's what's in your brain, but actually we're going to come back from that and it's chest press first, etc. I've got a student customer, a university customer, the number one thing for the young students they want to be able to do, bodyweight pull-ups. And more the women than the men, by the way. So they've tapped into that, but of course it comes back from that. You can't do a pull-up, so we start with pull-downs. Steve, go.
One of my training clients, not client, he's a friend I train together with. He's 82 and he's got a target to 100 kg bench press.
Beast.
So there's differences, you know.
Beast.
They don't see themselves as, because they're not.
Yeah, no, he's performance. He's performance, Alan. Guys at the back, what would your club, your facility do for Bob?
We just talked about an extended introductory chat, so you can really, these kind of people
Yeah.
I've got the first process of having like an extended introductory chat over a coffee or something, so you can really
Yeah.
understand the family structure, what their long-term goals are and stuff, and build a plan for them, and not just say like 3 months, kind of say over a year, make it seem a lot longer, and spend more time with them. I think that's
And the thing we spoke about yesterday was how much time have we got? How much instructor time is available? Because if we had everybody was like Bob, we wouldn't have the instructor time to deal with it, but we haven't. But we have got people like Bob. So let's spend the time that they need, which is, okay, it's half an hour, it's 45 minutes, whatever, because we probably don't need to spend that amount of time with Sam. So it's a balance. We give with one hand, we take it away with another. Because Sam is like, hey, I'm going to send you this workout, or it's on our app, or I'm going to send you an Instagram workout. And it's like, yeah, great. Because they don't actually want to sit down and talk to you. That's not their method of communication. So there's wins for us there. But you're right, giving the appropriate amount of time and meeting them where they are in their journey, which is, I still want to talk to someone. I feel comfortable if I gain your trust, or you gain my trust. So there's that communication. So we'd have exactly the same thing with Priya. We wouldn't be any different. You know, what are the things? She's the busy professional. What do we need to do? Okay, we want maximum results, minimal time. The most bang for the buck possible. It can't be a 1.5 hour workout because she's not going to fit that in around a busy lifestyle. So uncovering the persona, I could say, look, you maybe could do this, you could do that. You'll know what to do as long as you know what the persona is. If you've got that amount of information and you uncover it, your trainers can then go and face that kind of persona and go, how would I program for this? Rather than it's been the same every time and hoping that it works for everybody. So I won't go into too much detail, but Sam, you know, what's the thing for Sam? He wants to be able to do a body weight pull-up. In some ways, you could go, it's a lot easier because he's got no physical impairments or his capabilities are full, so there's not much I can't give him. Whereas for the others, it's like, I can't do that. He's got this injury, he's got hip replacement, whatever. So it's slightly different, but the persona workshops will deliver this kind of insight. But remember, you're building this on data, research, and more importantly, your staff input, your team input. To say, because the cleaner will say, oh yeah, Bob, when he comes in, he keeps telling us about he has to lift his wife up and it's quite a struggle, it's getting quite hard. She's got that bit of insight. Gym instructors didn't have that because they talk, you know, and they're non-stop to leaning on the broom most of the time, or the ones that I ever worked with. True, I can remember his name actually. His name was Alan, funny enough, when I worked in Harrogate. We talked yesterday about when people are when you're in the gym watching your staff, everything's perfect. It's done the way you would want it done. The question is, how do we know that that's being done when you're not there? Rather than it being a directive from you to say, this is what I want you to do, they have to feel like, I understand why this is the right way to do it. I believe in that as much as you do. So don't just hope they'll follow it by saying, because we had a meeting, we said, this is what we're going to do. It really has to be part of their behavior. We have to focus on what they do when you're not looking. That's the really important bit here. I promised I'd finish on time. We started 4 minutes late because we were late coming in, and I am bang on time, but we still got a couple of minutes before the next ones come in. Questions or things that you'll take away tomorrow? I'm quite happy for anybody that wants a copy of this slides, by the way. Just give me the details, exchange details, I'll email it to you. You can have a copy of the deck, and from yesterday, if you were here yesterday or missed it and want to catch up. Throw some questions, thoughts, takeaways. Go for it. Yes.
One of the things you're also talking about is kind of offering members different options, things to do, like the tapas menu. But there's a miss between those two things, because you said immediately, I don't want an induction, I don't want this, I don't want that, like I don't need to engage with that. Would those things, if you'd engage with them as a customer, do you think they'd have kept you at the first gym a little bit more? And how better do we target your persona with those things if they're immediately going to go, I know what I'm doing in a gym?
Yeah, I think for me, and you know, I could say I'm in a certain edge of case in some ways, but regardless of who it is, if I say this is what I'm looking for, you need to meet that need first. So if you totally meet my need in terms of access times to the pool, being able to wear my paddles, it's close to me, I'm happy. Now, am I made aware that I know you're doing this now, but we also do this, and this might be relevant to you, and it's almost like after the event, but as long as you meet my primary need, You've done everything that I was asking of you. I don't think there's a case where this is my primary need, but you're pushing all these other things to kind of try and get me to bite early, when really all I've come to do is I want to be able to swim at the times I want to swim. So I'm not saying it's wrong, but I just think it's, can you make them aware that these things are available alongside their membership? It's not the reason they joined you, but at some point, I mean, I go somewhere else for yoga. Now, if they suddenly introduced new yoga classes or a new teacher, I would potentially go to their yoga class, but I go to hot yoga, which they don't do. But if they did, well, yeah, I'd go and do that right away. Yeah. So, and of course, what happens when you join is not necessarily how I feel 12 months later. Yeah. You know, values change over time. You've only got to look at most people's living rooms and when they were taking out laminate flooring a couple of years ago, but 5 years earlier, everyone wanted laminate flooring. And then you look at it, things change. Your needs change, and so do your values and what's important to you. So there might be a time when, yeah, actually, I move away from swimming and I start doing more gym work.
Picking up, like, again, our systems tell us when it's a member's 6-month anniversary at the gym, and then being able to collar them and say, actually, come in and we can offer you one of these things.
And if we don't do that, we're always got historical information that might be 2 years old. This is why I joined 2 years ago. This is not what will keep me now. So regularly asking for that kind of 360 feedback and giving them the opportunity to say, actually, things have changed.
Because I think we're good at that when you're in the gym, and possibly not as good at that. Say the people who come in on the shifts when Pete's there, great, we're probably doing this.
Yeah.
But again, it's
challenge.
Like consistency. Are we doing it on a Saturday when he's not
Mm.
here?
I think that's always the challenge when you're not there.
Someone like you interested in the gym is, like, first of all, yes, it's got what you need, great, fine. And then secondly, it's just conversation. I don't think someone needs to come up to you with a menu and go, oh, have you thought about
no, absolutely.
such and such a class?
Yeah.
No, it's just like, oh, how's it going?
Cool.
But then for the women who do some of the busy women who come in and say they want these particular goals and then avoid the weights and go in cardio all the time, but then they do a bit of PT, that improves short term, and then they're again.
I think it's a fluid conversation. I don't think that's why they join. You stay there. You stay in lane. It's fluid, and it'll always be. Anyone else got any thoughts, any questions before we clear the room and let the next presenter come in? Anything?
Quick question.
Go for it.
Is there any particular softwares which you have used and had good experiences with regards to gathering client data and analysing the data?
So it's an interesting one because every club I go into, I say, what's your membership management system, leisure management system, and all of them can give you, they have the data in there. I was talking to one yesterday. There's our pre-prepared reports. They're templated. So you can't decide what data you want in. It comes as, there's a gender mix, there's a date of birth, there's postcodes, but they're not all together. So I always say if you can export it into CSV and then put it into Excel, you can pull that data and create a spreadsheet. But that takes a little bit of work. Some will have what they call custom reports, which you just tick the field you want, and that's what is exported into one report. So I think you have to speak to your management software provider and say, this is what I want. Is it available, or can you produce this report to me? Give them the date range, give them the specific criteria you want. And if you're looking to purchase software, if there's a new facility, that's your brief to the potential seller is, this is what I need. I need it to be able to produce this for me. And I was always surprised at how difficult that was from some. And the start date for membership, by the way, was one that was historically not recorded. So you couldn't do survival rates straight away. You had to do that manually. Final questions, any chance? Nothing? Great. I don't know if there's a survey that goes out after this, if you attended this session and they do the speakers. If they do, great. If you can give it feedback. It's my first time presenting at this conference yesterday and today. I'd like to do it again. Who knows? Good. Thanks for coming up. Thanks for seeing you yesterday. Same faces as well. Enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers, guys. Thanks.